I'm going to call the Carson Area Metropolitan Planning Organization to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Bagwell.
Here.
Vice Chair Novak.
Here.
Member Dodson. Member Erb. Member Henderson. No, not
online?
yet. Member Erb. Oh, Member Maloney.
There he is.
Here.
Member Schutte.
Here.
Ex officio Member Rosenberg. Thank you. A quorum's present.
And please let the record reflect it appears Mr. Henderson has come online. Or it says his name. Wes, did you want to?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we're now on to agenda item number 3, which is our opening public comment. Is there any opening public comment? Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is approval of our minutes of July 12th, 2023. Does any member have any corrections or changes, updates? No one does. I'll accept a motion for approval, please. Go ahead, Ms. Maloney.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed,
Aye.
say no. The record was unanimous. Thank you. We're now on to agenda 5A, which is discussion and possible action regarding a contract for parametrics to perform the US 50 East Carson Complete Street Study for a total not to exceed of $148,216.81 to complete phase 1 of the study, plus an option for CAMPO to authorize parametrics to perform phase 2 of the study for an additional $177,422.21. Forget those pennies, which if exercised, would result in a total contract not to exceed of $325,639.02. Ms. Schutte, may I have your disclosure, please?
Yes. NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose conflicts of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. My nephew is Chris Martinovich, who is employed by Carson City and will be presenting this item. Chris and I are not receiving compensation of any kind directly related to this item. It will not foreseeably impair or enhance the terms of his service with the city, and we are not affected by the outcome of this item to a greater degree than any other resident of Carson City. NRS 281A.420 only requires abstention in clear cases, and the independent judgment of a reasonable person in my position would not be impacted by my familial relationship. Therefore, I do not have a disqualifying conflict, and I will be voting on this matter.
Thank you so much. Mr. Martinovich, give us this item, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. As noted, this item is to award a contract to parametrics for the US 50 East Carson Complete Street Study in the amount of $148 as shown there in the staff report. This study really is going to be completed into 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is going to focus on traffic operations, safety, access management components, and phase 2 is going to focus on elements such as multimodal, transit, freight, alternative roadway connections, bigger picture planning items. Right now, we're only funded to complete phase 1 of the project with coordination and an agreement with the Nevada Department of Transportation for $100,000 and $50,000 coming through CAMPO's Unified Planning Work Program. So I wanted to acknowledge NDOT and thank them for providing that agreement and that funding for us to complete phase 1 of this study. Phase 2 of the study is potentially funded through a Transportation Alternatives grant application or other sources in the future. We did put in an application for $180,000 through NDOT back in April of this year, but we haven't heard back on if we were successful on that. Should we be successful on receiving that grant award, we would move forward with executing phase 2 and with parametrics and moving forward to complete both phases of the study. Should we not get that phase 2, we'll continue with phase 1 and we'll complete that as planned. One of the reasons for doing the study was to identify potential improvements along the US 50 corridor, building upon what the city started in on the East William Street portion from Carson Street to I-580. We're kind of continuing the analysis of the corridor from I-580 into Mound House and building on the success that we've had with that project. NDOT has planned, and it's in CAMPO's Transportation Improvement Program, a project for rehabilitation, pavement rehabilitation, reconstruction of US 50 in this same corridor. And so we're hopeful that by completing this study and in coordination with NDOT, we can get some improvements that have been identified in this study in with that project to be able to kind of couple those efforts together and show results and make this study actionable, if you will. So those are the things I wanted to highlight with this particular item. Jeff Hale here is with Parametrics, is in attendance today, but I'm happy to answer any questions related to this item.
Thank you. Does any member have a question? We pretty much know what these are. Go through these. Mr. Henderson, I just want to make sure, any questions?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, I do. If the contractor wants to come up, maybe just in general, because I'm assuming you've done these before. Just as and welcome. Just in general, can you tell me what types of things that you see or expect to see, or results that come out of these studies?
Jeff Hill for the record, Madam Mayor, and thank you. I think one of the things that we're going to be looking at is this corridor over the years has developed and kind of moved out towards Mountain House. It's always been a very busy corridor with lots of access, lots of conflicting movements, lots of traffic. It's developing, it's changing over the years. So incorporating a look at multimodal improvements, how pedestrians and bicyclists use this corridor, future plans for connectivity to some of the recreation areas that are out through the corridor, looking at the driveways to see where the conflicts are. We're going to do traffic counts at intersections and maybe come up with some ideas for how we can modify access, maybe do some median island modifications, potential roundabouts in the area or other traffic calming devices to accommodate those and mix those other modes in a more safer manner.
So one of the questions that I have, or that I've been working with Mr. Martinovich in the last few weeks or whatever, is one of the areas out there deals with that Nye Lane, Centennial Park, Sunrise, all of that area in there. So do you see this study as having an opportunity to at least review and see what the cars are doing and which are they using the best turn in and use to get over to the golf course or to get to that whole area and region? Do you see this as something that we can have that whole group comment on? Because I saw that it would have the stakeholders and things like that that you would work with. Is that something we can ask those stakeholders to participate in?
I think appreciate the question. I think the stakeholder coordination is an important component to this project, particularly in the phase 2 when we're looking at more of that bigger range and that bigger sort of regional planning and connectivity of the network. Phase 1 is really focused on a lot of these safety improvements, traffic movement, traffic operations. Definitely going to look at intersections like US 50 and Nye Lane, US 50 and Empire Ranch Road. Some of those intersections where over the years, I know growing up here, I've seen issues there and sometimes are hard to turn left. And so some of those intersections are definitely on our radar to examine during this first phase, but sort of the broader regional planning would really occur in the second phase, looking at more travel patterns throughout that area. We're really not going to tackle that in this first phase.
Okay, I just think it's important. It's certainly an area right now that we're receiving a little bit of public requests for road closures and things because they believe the traffic in their residential area is excessive.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're looking for, do we have the traffic moving correctly off of Highway 50, which is what they believe is causing their problems. So I just look forward to any opportunity that we can to incorporate any concerns in either phase to let that public know that we're looking at it. So,
Mm-hmm.
Noted.
Great.
Thank you.
thank you.
Couple
Please.
of comments or
Mhm.
questions. It's a good study, and it's US 50 state highway, also a national highway system route. And under this first phase, I'd really like to get a good handle on vehicle classification, how many trucks and all sorts of other vehicles up there, that's important. And then as you go from the freeway all the way up into Mound House, some additional speed data would definitely help. Because I think we all agree that some folks are flying and would like to find out how fast. And you know, if it's not readily available right now, maybe NDOT can help you collect that.
Okay.
Hopefully we can do that. All righty, thank you.
That all in. I think it's important. I think this is like I said, a great study to try and accommodate right now too, because I think that is a huge growth spot. I think it's also a huge growth of vehicles that we've, like you said, growing up here, it's like, wow, what is going on out there? But a lot of vehicles. So. Okay, anybody else? I don't see any. Is there any public comment on this proposal? Not seeing any. I'll accept a motion. Go ahead,
I will do it. I'll-
Mr. Novak.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I second.
There's a motion and a second. As presented, just technically on the record, and if funding comes, would you bring it back for phase two? Or you're already wanting to say that we would do phase two? Because as presented,
DA
it's kind
would-
of open.
If the DA would
I
like to
think we
weigh
need
in,
a
I'll
little
let
more
him do that.
clarity.
Sure, yeah.
Sorry.
Adam Tully, Deputy District Attorney for the record. Yes, the way the contract is written is that if that before phase two can proceed under this contract, it must come back to this board for approval. So it's an option, and it's an option that must be exercised by CAMPO.
Okay. All right, just great, so that we're clear on it. This is a phase one approval that we're doing today. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you so much. We look forward to your great work. I'm building you up there, don't you know? We have high expectations. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 5B. This is discussion only. A presentation regarding the CAMPO activities during fiscal year '23. And Chris, you're going to
Yep,
take us?
thank you, Madam Chair. This is our annual item related to an annual activities report following the close of the fiscal year for CAMPO. Most of what I wanted to highlight is already sort of back in the background section of the staff report. I do want to note a few things. First of all is that during this last year, we've updated two of our core planning documents, two of our four core planning documents for the UPW, which in our CAMPO tasks here. So one of those was adoption of a new transportation improvement plan, and the second was the update of the public participation plan. And so those are big accomplishments we completed this year, along with the East William Street feasibility study. That was a large lift for CAMPO and consultant staff, and again, partially funded by NDOT, so I wanted to recognize and appreciate that. Budget-wise, we're continuing to underrun our tasks primarily because we have some staff vacancies, and so we're not able to, we're not spending that money as opposed to have with those positions filled. But we are continuing to complete tasks. We've completed all but one of the tasks that was identified in our fiscal year 23 UPWP, which the only task that was not completed is the transit rider survey. That was scheduled for June. However, we have, I'm happy to report that survey will be starting on Monday next week. So that activity has still progressed. It's just a little bit delayed as we kind of catch up and get things taken care of. So I'll touch on that a little bit more in the transportation manager's report. We're continuing to plug away on other tasks. We're participating on a number of committees and our stakeholders on various working groups. I've mentioned a few of those in the past, including the emissions reduction working group, the transit, the traffic management center, and various groups, similar groups to that. Kelly is actually in Las Vegas for the Nevada Safety Summit and participating in NVACS, the safety committee there. So trying to play that regional role and understand how we fit in and coordinate with the state partners here. We are working on a number of other tasks. For instance, this US 50 corridor study that we discussed here tonight. We're continuing to plug away on the update to our travel demand model. Anticipate here at the end of the year for an update on that in coordination with Douglas County. We're kicking off the first major meeting of our local road safety plan. The first workshop is scheduled for Tuesday. I believe Commissioner Novak is going to attend that, as well as many other folks from the law enforcement and emergency response community to get some feedback on what we're doing here in Carson City and the CAMPO region. And we are tentatively planning an update to our regional transportation plan to incorporate some new documents that have been completed, including the Carson Area Transportation System Management Plan. We want to get that incorporated into the RTP so we can make those types of improvements eligible for federal funding. So we want to, looking forward to that amendment in the springtime. Other than that, those are the things I really wanted to highlight from the CAMPO side, but I'm happy to take any questions or thoughts from the CAMPO board. I appreciate all of your input and the comments that I've received and continue to work with Carson City, Lyon County, and Douglas County and our partners at NDOT. So appreciate that. Thanks.
Does any member have a question? Nope, this is a discussion-only item, but in case there's anyone that wants to comment, is there any public comment? Okay, we don't have any action, so we will move to item 6, which is a non-action item. Mr. Martinovich, your report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Martinovich. I had 2 items already mentioned. Travel demand model, we covered that, where it's ongoing. Local road safety plan workshop, that's Tuesday. Next month, we'll be having our network monitoring report. So Kelly's wrapping that network monitoring report up. She'll have a presentation for this board next month. We've added some new performance measures following the system management plan and the adoption of the PPP. And so we'll incorporate those, and then just as well as other demographics changes that we've seen here in the CAMPO region. Safety Summit, as I mentioned, Kelly is attending the Safety Summit in Las Vegas, and she will bring us back a report of some of her highlights that she noted, so we'll look forward to that next month. NDOT is continuing work on the Southern Sierra Corridor study, and I think NDOT's leading that study. CAMPO's a stakeholder in that one. I believe there's a workshop tentatively scheduled for early November, so more information on that coming related to US 395 and the corridor to the south. And lastly, fortunately, I want to mention that on Monday, we have our new transit coordinator starting. His name is Dan Kelsey. So looking forward to seeing him. He starts Monday. He's got a lot of learning to do to understand how we operate in our system, but I'm looking forward to having him here, and he seems to be pretty excited to be here. So we'll see him in October at this meeting. So those are the items I wanted to note at the CAMPO board. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any member have anything they'd like to report or share? Mr. Erb?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, John Erb. Just wanted to point out the hard work that Scott's been doing on the Safe Routes to School Master Plan. We have a very challenging board, and he was there for 3 hours last night to present with Amy their findings on the plan. So we really appreciate the work they do on that. So, thank you.
I want to say too that I guess he gets double kudos in one day. That might be something wrong with that, but we'll go ahead and do it anyway. But really want to thank Scott and his team and Muscle Power and the Park Foundation and the Move with the Mayor. We had a great time this last weekend doing bicycle safety and handing out helmets and doing a little bike race. Well, maybe not a race, just seeing if they could stay on their bikes through the obstacle course. And I will say that one of my favorite was the little 18-month-old that we found, the little Strider bike that I didn't even know they made them that small that would fit. But that was a defiant young man that decided if his brother could do it, he could do it. It was really quite fun. And I'm going to have to give him credit because he did it. And he was only 18 months, but he was trucking through the little thing. But thank you for that. It's a wonderful community event to showcase safety and the fact that you should wear a helmet all the time, no matter what. So just kudos to that. Really, really good attitude your staff has, Darren. So just want to share with that. Anybody else? Nothing, Wes? Nope, you left us. Okay, then we'll move on to, is there any final public comment? We're easy today. Okay, with that, we are adjourned as Campo, and we'll just give 5 minutes to switch over to RTC. Thank you all for a good meeting. call the Regional Transportation Commission to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Bagwell,
Here.
Vice Chair Schutte,
Here.
Commissioner Dodson, Commissioner Maloney. Here. Commissioner Novak.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 3, which is our public comment. First opportunity on the agenda. Is there any opening public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to approval of our minutes of August 16th, 2023. Does anybody have any corrections or changes? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for approval. Ms. Maloney?
Move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dotson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. We'll now move on to agenda item 5A, discussion and possible action regarding an interlocal agreement, number NM 519-23-016 for the Nevada Department of Transportation to provide traffic signal equipment at no cost to the Carson City Regional Transportation Commission for installation at various traffic signals prior to December 31, 2024, and authorization for the transportation manager to execute the agreement, as well as any amendments to the agreement regarding changes to the equipment, material changes to the installation location, and extensions of time. Ms. Schutte, may I have your disclosure, please?
You bet. NRS 281A.420 requires me to disclose conflicts of interest and abstain from voting when I have a disqualifying conflict. My nephew is Chris Martinovich, who is employed by Carson City and will be presenting this item. Chris and I are not receiving compensation of any kind directly related to this item. It does not foreseeably impair or enhance the terms of his service with the city, and we are not affected by the outcome of this item to a greater degree than any other resident of Carson City. NRS 281A.420 only requires abstention in clear cases, and the independent judgment of a reasonable person in my position would not be impacted by my familial relationship or by a familial relationship. Therefore, I do not have a disqualifying conflict, and I will be voting on this matter.
Thank you so much. Mr. Martinovich?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. This item has been, this agreement has been in the works for a few months now. We've been coordinating with NDOT on the purchase of this equipment. NDOT will be purchasing the equipment at their cost and providing it to the Carson City Regional Transportation Commission at no cost to us. We just have to install the equipment at all of the signals that are identified in the attachment of the agreement over the course of the next year. The equipment that we're purchasing, that NDOT's purchasing and providing to us are battery backup systems for some signals, vehicle detection equipment for some other signals, and new traffic signal controllers. This is the device that makes the traffic signal operate at all of the signals listed there in the portion of agreement shown on packet page 16. We will be installing these not only on traffic signals in Carson City, but in the traffic signals in Lyon and Douglas County as well as our agreements. We have individual agreements with both Lyon and Douglas County for the maintenance of their traffic signals. When we do the installation of this equipment on those traffic signals, we will be utilizing the terms of those agreements and seeking reimbursement for our time, as is our standard process per those agreements. So that's the background for this agreement. Happy to answer any of the questions related to this one.
Does any member have a question? Mr. Dotson? Oh, sorry.
Go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Mr. Dotson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris, these intersections don't necessarily have to be on NDOT, the NDOT system, is that correct?
That is correct. We're really looking to get a regional similarity where we have all the traffic signal controllers as they all tie back into Carson City Public Works. We're responsible for the maintenance on all these signals regardless of the ownership of the signal itself. For continuity of the system, we're replacing the traffic signal controllers on every signal that in this region that Carson City maintains.
And for that continuity, NDOT's willing to provide the equipment to do that. Is that correct?
Correct. That's
Even-
correct.
Even off system.
Even off system.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Chris, I went down the list here. I guess one of them is the brand-new signal up at Warrior Way that you guys are actually going to help install. Are you getting any spares on this at all, or is it just, you have to install them on all the existing signals? Would you have any in stock?
I do not know if we were getting spares. I'm going to ask our control systems manager, James Jacklett, if we are purchasing, if NDOT's getting any spares, if he knows.
Not since it doesn't say.
Good afternoon, James Jacklett, Operations Manager, Control Systems. So as per the question on the Exhibit A on the back there, 72 of the traffic signals are getting new controllers in the equipment provided and furnished by NDOT. There will be a few more than that in order to allow us spares, as well as what's necessary for us to actually maintain those systems. We have to have some in the shop so that we can configure them before we swap them out in the operation and maintenance of those systems.
I have a
Go ahead.
quick question.
Ms. Schutte.
Thank you. So the replacement of the end-of-life vehicle detection system, so just to, so the vehicle detection system, that helps with the traffic flow. Is that correct? And so it's important that when it is at its end of life and then the signals aren't as effective or the flow isn't what it should be, is that what that's about?
The vehicle detection systems are used to detect and trigger the traffic signal to change for a particular direction. So if they begin to malfunction, then you could have vehicles sitting to make a left turn or to move through and the light never detects them and therefore it never changes. So by ensuring we have upgraded detection systems, they're always going to be able to detect the vehicles as they approach and pass through the traffic signal.
Perfect. You said it much more eloquently. Thank you.
So just so I can double check, because what you said, James, makes complete sense, and I can just have, oh, no DOT anymore on the record. So when it says department agrees, which is them, to provide the city with traffic signal materials for the project per Exhibit A scope of work, are you saying it's standard in a scope of work to provide the 72? They actually might give us 80? I guess I'm just concerned it's not what the agreement says, but if you all believe that's what it says.
Yeah, so under Article 2, Department agrees. Number 1 is to provide city with the traffic signal materials for the project per the exhibit for the scope of work. So per NDOT and the way that they wanted this agreement written, it's specific to the scope of work. It's less specific to which, how many bolts, how many materials, how many things we need. The agreement in itself covers the scope of work and then providing the materials to accomplish that. It is customary as we get these systems to make sure that there is enough to do the job accurately and to make sure that we can get it done. So in implementing, for example, implementing those traffic signal controllers, it would be very difficult for us to swap one for one without having to, additional for that burn-in testing. And there will be most likely failures out of the box in those other items. So that could jeopardize the project and the scope. So I hope that provides some clarification on the
I
question.
just want it on the record because one could read it a couple of ways, saying you're going to get 72 traffic signal controllers. And I would agree with you that, gosh, be with us if 72 of them worked perfect out of the box. But just as long as we have it on the record that everyone's clear, it could be, like I said, 80 of them or 75 of them that they actually give you so you can implement the scope of work is what you're saying. Okay. And then just a little bit of a different question on the battery backup systems, because the next item is to get battery backups. They're just different ones. The other ones already have battery backups. Why aren't all 72 of them getting them?
I can go ahead and speak to that. In that attachment or Exhibit A scope of work, it does show 18 signal intersections identified as getting battery backup systems. These are intersections that either have no battery backup system installed today or have a system that has been deemed not worth sustaining or maintaining. A couple of these, I don't know which ones specifically, but do have very old systems. So you are correct. So what you can read into with this is that all of the intersections in Carson City have existing battery backup systems. And so the ones without X's already have them. And to refer or reference that, the next item or the upcoming item on the agenda for battery backup systems, that is for replacing the batteries in existing systems. So that's not replacing the systems themselves, the entire units. That's changing the batteries in them because they're at that point in their life.
Useful life. Okay, thank you. Who wants to go next? Go ahead, Lucia.
Maybe just one question and a comment. Just out of morbid curiosity, I seem to recall there was a discussion in the past about vehicle detection as the little cameras versus in the ground. And I'm curious which ones these are and if they're consistent with what we have or where we're going.
Yeah, so vehicle detection systems, what they have in common is they detect vehicles. The methods by which they detect vehicles vary. They can be in-ground inductive loops, which are cut into the pavement. You can see those. They're typically circles or other shapes in the lanes. There are camera or video-based detection systems. There are radar, and there are more. Everybody's always working on a new product. So these specifically are Iteris Apex video systems. They will be, there's another item on the agenda tonight for purchasing similar items. The advantage with them is they are not as good as it can get. So as far as the reliability and consistency of them being able to detect a vehicle, I would not put them at the top. However, we're not in a world where we get to have tremendous budgets to buy the best all the time. So the scope and the reason that there are only 10 intersections identified as getting vehicle detection systems on here is because this scope of work was constructed around the available budget for NDOT. So there are greater needs and more and additional needs, but this goes after some of the intersections that need it the most. And these systems specifically are an upgrade in a sense to the existing systems, and that they reuse the existing power and coax wiring which is installed in them. So there's less equipment to replace. It's a little bit faster to replace them. And importantly, it doesn't require pulling those wires across those intersections. Believe it or not, a lot of this infrastructure has been in place for a long time, and a lot of those wires don't move in those conduits. We have broken conduits, crushed conduits. So this is a method to go in and replace the parts that are beyond end of life, and importantly, recover the cameras and the processors that are installed at those intersections, because we have, I believe, approximately 40 of these left that are of that same generation that we need to maintain because we can't buy them all today. So we're recovering and pulling back these used parts so we can put them in other intersections as they fail. And it is a Band-Aid in a sense. I would love to have in-ground vehicle detection system or in-ground vehicle detection at all of these locations, but that requires opening up the sidewalks and the roads, installing conduit, and a substantial investment.
Thanks for the clarification. And then just a comment, I would contend there is no one in Nevada as experienced and knowledgeable as Mr. Jacklett. So come back anytime, and we would love to pick your brain and hear about how we can help you. So thanks for the clarification there.
Ms. Schutte, did you have another question, or you're good? Okay, anybody else? Okay, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back for a motion. Ms. Maloney.
I move to approve the agreement as presented and to authorize the transportation manager to execute the agreement and any future amendments to the agreement regarding changes to equipment materials, changes to installation location, and extensions of time.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Novak. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. We'll now move on to agenda item 5B, which is discussion and possible action regarding authorization to purchase traffic signal battery backup equipment from Sierra Transportation Technologies not to exceed $63,190. Ms. Shooty, your disclosure, please.
And there'll be one more as well. My nephew, Chris Martinovich, is the city staff presenter on this item. My disclosure and analysis from item 5A applies here as well. Chris and I are not receiving compensation of any kind directly related to this item. It will not foreseeably impair or enhance the terms of his city service, and we are not affected by the outcome of this item to a greater degree than any other Carson City resident. Therefore, I have no disqualifying conflict, and I will be voting.
Thank you. Chris, is there anything special on this one you want to bring to our attention?
I will note, similar to the last one as we discussed, that this is purchasing battery backup systems, batteries themselves for battery backup systems, as well as battery monitoring, remote battery monitoring systems, where the previous item was providing battery backup systems to traffic signals on NDOT facilities, on NDOT-owned signals. This item is purchasing batteries for Carson City specific traffic signals. So I wanted to make that clarification. This completes a number of other intersection battery backup updates by removing and replacing the batteries and providing the remote monitoring of that. I also want to note that we do recycle all the batteries that we pull out of the traffic signal, and we recycle them in coordination with the landfill or with other local businesses in the area. So we take care of that. Otherwise, that's what I wanted to add on this one.
Okay, just a general question. It's kind of funny when I read the estimate on Exhibit 1. I'm like, that's kind of written funny. Estimate is valid through 10/30, so we're in time to do that. But then it says pricing is subject to change if released after 30 days from the estimate date, which was 8/28. So is this price still valid?
We're still within the 30 days of 8/28, so I think it's, in either
For
case,
there,
the
we're going
price
to get this
is
out
still
in the next
valid.
tomorrow so we can get the price.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe the pricing is still valid. The vendors are getting are becoming more and more conservative with their language. However, I don't have any reason to believe that we won't get the price.
Okay, but we'll be able to get our purchase order out fast enough for the contract. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? I don't like still seeing supply chain written on stuff. It's like, what? We're not through this yet? This is scary, huh? Okay, is there any public comment on this item? Nope, I'll take a motion then. Mr. Dotson?
I move to approve the purchase of the equipment as presented.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. We're now on to agenda item 5C, discussion and possible action regarding authorization to purchase vehicle detection equipment from Iteris Inc. for a not to exceed amount of $95,544. Ms. Shooty, may I have your disclosure, please?
Christopher Martinovich is still my nephew, and he is presenting this item. My disclosure and analysis from items 5A and 5B apply here as well. Chris and I are not receiving compensation of any kind directly related to this item. It will not foreseeably impair or enhance the terms of his city service, and we are not affected by the outcome of this item to a greater degree than any other Carson City resident. Therefore, I have no disqualifying conflict, and I will be voting.
Okay. Mr. Martinovich, we're
Yeah,
buying more of something of
Thank
a
you, Madam
different
Chair.
thing. There you
We're
go.
we're buying 3 detection systems for the intersections listed there on packet page 24, College Parkway and Carson Street, College Parkway and Roop Street, College Parkway and Retail Drive. These systems are similar to the ones we'll be receiving through the agreement discussed in item 5A. They're to replace older aging systems that are beginning to fail, and we're losing detection capability. So as you can see from the exhibits attached to this particular item, these are systems that can detect a variety of vehicles and pedestrians. However, we'll primarily be using them for vehicle detection. So
Does any member have a question? Ms. Maloney?
Just minor question, I guess. On the fiscal information section, it discusses a augmentation of $200,000. Chris, can you help me understand just what that is and where that money comes from? Or James, or whoever.
Yeah, James Jacklett, Operations Manager, Control System. So in the capital budget, in that augmentation, as at the approved budget, if you look at the line item for that, it does show zero right now, but with the roll forward from last year's remaining capital, there is funding that's identified to go into that. So the budget, as far as for my planning purposes, is 200,000. However, if you pull up the budget and look at it today, it shows zero because it's waiting for that augmentation to occur, which is moving those funds into the current year budget.
Copy, thank you.
Does that mean this was an item that was approved for last year's capital and we're just not getting to it till now to purchase?
No, this was not from last year. This is the account, the traffic signal and streetlight account, that capital account 256-303-850-7774. That one at the time of budget was shown with a zero, with the intent of augmenting it during first round augmentation. And I apologize. I'm not the accountant. I wish I.
That's not working well in my mind. Generally, so you're telling me this was a prior year project line that you're moving into this fiscal year via augmentation. That means we budgeted it last year.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if I may.
Okay.
So there are a number of line items in the street operations budget, one of which line item is the traffic signals and streetlight line item. In fiscal year 23, there was a budget set aside, and we didn't expend all of that budget as part of fiscal year 23. So that remaining budget that was included in the original fiscal 23 is now being rolled forward into the fiscal year 24 budget, which is where the money for this particular purchase will be coming from. So it wasn't a project that we necessarily delayed or didn't do. There was extra money in 23. We're bringing it forward in 24. We're able to purchase these items.
It's clear as mud. It's clear as a street light. No. Okay, I understand what you're doing. Anyone else have any questions? No? Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion. Want to do it? Ms. Maloney?
I move to approve the purchase of the equipment as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Dotson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 5D, discussion and possible action regarding a cooperative agreement between Carson City Regional Transportation Commission and the Nevada Department of Transportation to fund the Western Nevada Safe Routes to School through September 30, 2024 in the amount of $223,730, comprising $212,543 in TAP funds, plus the required 5% local match of $11,187, and to authorize the transportation manager to execute the agreement, as well as any future amendments to the agreement to revise scope of work, to extend the time of performance, or to approve funding changes not exceeding 10% of the agreement amount. I don't have a disclosure on this one, so something's not right. We got to do this over. Good evening, Scott. Did you want to just give us? Yeah. Are you sure you're not related?
I don't think so.
You know, all
Never
right.
know.
Did you want to
Yeah.
just give us a briefing on this item, please?
Yeah, so thank you, Madam Mayor. Scott Bohemian for the record. The Western Nevada Safe Routes to School program is funded in large part with TAP federal funding provided to the RTC through a competitive grant process administered by NDOT. In April of 2023, the RTC submitted a grant application and has been awarded funding for the 2024 federal fiscal year. Continued funding through TAP allows our program to extend high-quality safety education, engineering, and encouragement to our students throughout Western Nevada. In fiscal year 2023, Our program was busy working with all the schools in the area, along with community partners, making lasting relationships with thousands of students, parents, and staff. We've been working on a circulation study at Carson City High School to improve the safety for students that walk and bike to school there. We're just wrapping up the Douglas County Safe Routes to School Master Plan, which we came up with 100 and something recommendations for them to
Just
make
a
their
few.
schools a little bit safer. But we took it to their board last night, and everybody's real excited and looking forward to making those changes. Also, we participated in and hosted a number of events. Some of those included walking and biking safety assemblies, bike skills classes at the schools and local Boys and Girls Club, of our Nevada Moves Day, which is a partnership with NDOT, getting the kids to get out and move and get away from their computers and games and all that. So our Ride for Reading events, which the mayor was able to attend, the one at Borderwick Bray. We also did one at Fremont Elementary. The Move with the Mayor event at Mills Park last week. And then Back to School Bash with Northern Nevada Dream Center, which goes towards the underserved community, giving away backpacks and school supplies. And Safety Sally goes and takes tons of pictures and all kinds of fun stuff. We also attended the Sheriff's Night Out. And actually, right now we have the Golden Sneaker Award contest that I started up this year and made a little trophy in the winning school that has the most kids that walk and bike to school during this week. Will win the Golden Sneaker Award to keep and put it in their trophy case, and got incentives for all the kids. So just like to say I'm proud to be part of this effort. And with your approval, I look forward to another successful year.
Does any member have a question?
Scott, I had a question for you.
Sure.
Mhm.
You told me earlier you get to go to school board meetings.
Yeah.
Okay. You also give input if there's any new schools or major renovations being considered. I don't know if there's any within the scope of this, but,
In the Douglas County plan,
or any
of them, yeah,
any
if
of
there's
them.
a new school, then, yeah, we usually try to get in there and help out with that design of the school or the circulation patterns or anything that we can do to help them
But
out.
yeah, I'd recommend getting as early as you can, because putting a school in the wrong site, just because the land is cheap or free, doesn't help you in the long run. So,
Right.
get in there early as you can.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I just want to say what a pleasure it was for me as the mayor that Carson City was recognized by the Move with the Mayor event. We actually had interviews and all of our stuff put out as a fine example of what other communities should do. So I love it when they say we're doing something right. And I had calls by several mayors from other communities asking about it and how they could do it. And I thought, well, you must have safe route to school coordinators in your jurisdictions, but that it's really wonderful. We're also fortunate to have muscle power and things, and that it's really about linkages. And I have to say, Scott, what a great job you do about allowing every partnership that you can into the process, because it will only grow and get better and have a safer community when you allow more in than just yourself.
Yes.
And you're figuring out you can't do it by yourself because nobody will show up but yourself,
Yeah.
right? You'll turn around and go, hey, I'm the only one here. So kudos to you
Thank you.
for really helping to expand that. The Park Foundation joined in this time and had the cutest little stickers on skateboards and helmets
Mhm.
with the little animals riding skateboards. So just want to say, keep up the good work, and
Thank you. I
it's
appreciate it.
noticed,
Thank you.
right? Oftentimes we don't get to say thank you in public, but
I appreciate
job.
that.
okay. Is there any public comment on this before I bring it for motion? Okay, I'll accept a motion.
I move to approve the agreement as presented and to authorize the transportation manager, is that right? No, that's right. To execute the agreement as well as any future amendments to the agreement to revise the scope of work, to extend the time of performance, or to approve all funding changes not exceeding 10% of the agreement amount.
I would second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay. Thank you again so very much. And please extend our thanks to Muscle Power and them too. Really good partners. We're on agenda item 5E, discussion and possible action regarding an amendment to cooperative agreement between Carson City Regional Transportation Commission and the Nevada Department of Transportation to revise the scope of the East Fifth Street reconstruction project to replace a portion of the project's surface transportation grant funding with highway improvement program funding, revise the total project funding, and extend the termination date to June 30, 2027, and update the contact information and authorize the transportation manager to sign the amendment. Should we make I'm not gonna let him off the hook this time. Brian, do you want to take us through this? I could have just said we've already been talking about this and we're all done, but Brian, take us through a little bit of this.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Brian Byrne, Transportation Engineer. Yeah, so this is decreasing the total federal funding for our Fifth Street reconstruction project with the descoping of the roundabout. So we'll be moving 2.366 million of federal funding down to 1.3 million. So yeah, any questions? Happy to answer.
Where's it going, the extra money?
We're getting there, but it's going to go over to Colorado Street.
Yeah, again, it's a project switch that we've talked about often, but does anyone have?
I want to note that there was late material, Madam Chair,
Oh,
on this item.
yes.
So I wanted to make sure that got incorporated into the motion as
Yes.
required. Thank you.
It'll, instead of as presented, it'll say as presented in late material. Mhm. Thank you. Okay. And who did the late material, us or them? Them? I was like, wow, okay. Is there any public comment on this item? No? Okay, I'll accept a motion then. Mr. Dotson?
I move to approve the amendment as presented in the late material and authorize the transportation manager to sign the amendment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, here we go with 5F, discussion and possible action regarding Amendment 2 to the cooperative agreement between RTC and NDOT for the Colorado Street Rehab Project to increase the STBG funding by $750,000 for a new total of $1,491,292 with a $37,494 increase in the 5% local match for a new total of $78,489. Revise funds outside the agreement, extend the termination date to June 30, 2027, and update the contact information and authorize the transportation manager to sign the amendment. Brian, give us a little bit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian Byrne, Transportation Engineer. Like mentioned, this will be increasing the federal funding by $750,000 and then be reducing our local funding through our V&T funds. So those funds will be reallocated towards other projects down the road. With that, happy to answer any questions.
So we're not putting everything that we took from 5E into this 5F. That's
No, other portions will be going to the Carmine District 1 project.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not all going just to Colorado.
That's what I was alluding to.
Right.
Okay. Anybody have a question? Ms. Maloney?
I just wanted to make a comment. I noticed that the STBG funding in a previous item way back when we discussed this, I don't know, 17 or 18 times ago, had a really near-term expiration, right? And as part of these actions, that STBG, we get more time to use it. Is that right?
Well, we're Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. We've been able to obligate all the funding, and by taking this action to move some of the STBG funding out of Fifth Street into Colorado allows us to continue to meet CAMPO's funding obligations as well as the state's funding obligations so that none of these federal funds expire or are used by others. So there were time limits. Doing these amendments do not extend those time limits, but we've achieved all of the required time limits by doing this moving of money, if you will.
Then I will echo Supervisor Schutte and say you said it way better than me. And also just kudos for doing all that work and making all that happen.
Sure.
So I don't know, we're extending the termination date to June 30th, but the obligation dates didn't change? Is that what you're?
Correct. So the date that we're changing in the agreement to June 30th, 2027 is the term of the agreement, which allows NDOT to close out all the federal requirements, including the audits and all the processes that go into the post-construction activities of the project. So the requirements under this agreement are going to extend through 2027, but the funding as part of this agreement has met its federal obligation timeline requirements. But we're going to have to be continuing to work on the closeout process long after the funding has been obligated to the project.
So let me ask this differently, because I'm getting a lot of phone calls on Colorado Street. Let me try it a different way. When will the work itself be done on Colorado?
The end of October.
Okay, the end of October. That will help, I think, because I've been getting lots of calls. When are we going to be done? Like, soon. I thought that was a
Construction
good
takes
answer,
time.
right? Soon.
Construction takes time.
Okay, end of October. Perfect. Anybody else? No other questions? Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, I'll accept a motion. Anybody want to do one? Ms. Schutte.
I move to approve the amendment as presented and to authorize the transportation manager to sign the amendment.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, we're on agenda item 5G, discussion and possible action regarding a contract for JUB engineers to perform civil engineering design services for roadway projects in performance districts 2, 3, and 4 for a total not to exceed amount of $179,100. Brian, would you take us through this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian Byrne, Transportation Engineer. As previously mentioned, the Board of Supervisors directed ARPA funding for local road improvements. This contract would be for the design for Districts 2, 3, and 4, while District 1 is being designed in-house starting this month. And then we also have our District 5s currently in construction wrapping up. So that's why it just kind of outlines Districts 2, 3, and 4 here. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Does any member have a question?
Yeah, it looks like in the summary here, you got 6 different proposals on this, so there was quite a bit of competition.
Yes, there was a lot. I think it was with the pavement preservation and rehabilitation component in District 3. So I think it was a little bit more than just slurries. So it kind of brought in a little more competition.
Thanks, excellent.
Yeah, it's nice to get more than one. Yeah, choices. Ms. Maloney?
Just for the record, if we're designing projects in future districts, we're not essentially shorting the current district on road money, right?
No, because the Board of Supervisors allocated an equivalent amount for each of the districts out of ARPA money. So it
I
has
missed
its
that.
own.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, it had its own private funding source that they could just keep giving us that money and we could keep putting in. No, wishful thinking, but anyway, it was a special funding specific to each to make it fair. Anybody else? Okay, is there any public comment on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back here for a motion then. Mr. Novak.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, now we're on to item 5H, discussion only, presentation regarding the fiscal year 23 transportation activities.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Martinovich, Transportation Manager. Similar to the CAMPO board, this is a summary, our annual summary of fiscal year activities. Most of what I'm going to talk about is definitely in the background issue here. highlight a few things. Most notably is the table on packet page 206, which outlines our competitive federal state grants and our local match. So as noted in this table, we've been able to leverage $41 million, $41.5 million in transportation projects, planning, design, construction projects, using $8.7 million of local funds, so a match ratio of less than 20%. And we've been able to deliver, or will deliver, $50 million worth of transportation projects here in the CAMPO Carson City area. So we're definitely leveraging the federal dollars that are available to us, and we're strategic and competitive in those discretionary grant programs that we get, and through our partnerships with NDOT and other federal agencies, we're able to leverage that money and receive that money when they don't have to give it to us. So I appreciate that from them. Local funding has come from a variety of sources for this table, not only from the Regional Transportation Commission and the gas tax, but also from the Redevelopment Authority, and I appreciate their efforts as that. And then, as you mentioned, Mayor, the Board of Supervisors through the ARPA funding and other sources and allocations that come across miscellaneous. It also includes the V&T sales tax. It includes the infrastructure sales tax that we have here in Carson City, and able to do our larger projects like South Carson Street and William Street projects, and eventually the North Carson Street Complete Streets project. So those are those primary local sources for those particular items listed in that table. On the projects front, I'll direct your attention to the map included in Exhibit 1 of this particular staff report on packet page 209. This is a summary, or a visual summary, if you will, of all the projects that we have been worked on in some degree, whether they're design or construction projects over the course of the previous fiscal year 23. I believe there's, again, 19 projects similar to last year on this map, again, this year. And so these are projects that were active or ongoing at some point in the year. So as you can see, we're working on projects across Carson City. District 1 projects are under design right now. So, this time next year, we'll have a lot of lines and shapes shown in that particular district when we give this report. The annual pavement condition report card is also included in this staff report. This is the latest update from our paver database. It incorporates the survey that was completed at the end of 2021, the physical survey, and projects them forward to our current condition of 2023. As you can see, citywide, our regional roads have generally stayed flat, and that's in large part because that's where we commit the funding to our regional roads, where our local roads have decreased, as we're not committing any funding other than emergency or maintenance, pothole filling, crack sealing, minor items on our local roads. So our pavement conditions continue to deteriorate, and as this board knows, we're working on potential solutions for that and have presented items here in the past. But just wanted to report that as to where we are today. Otherwise, I wanted to acknowledge staff for the Transportation Division. There are normally 7 of us. Right now, there are 5. We'll be 5 again on Monday, as this is Brian's last meeting. I appreciate him sticking around for this one and helping us out covering these last items. But Rebecca and Scott and Kelly, I appreciate their effort. I also want to appreciate and acknowledge all Public Works staff in the Street Operations Division who plow the roads and literally keep the traffic signal lights on. And this board as well for providing input and direction and comments on all the policies and procedures we do. So I just wanted to acknowledge and thank you, as always, for those comments. Happy to take questions. Thank you.
Does any member have a question?
I've got
Mr.
one
Novak.
on packet page 207. I see that we did get development contributions, and 75,600 sounds really low to me, but I guess that's the way your pro rata system works. But I would like to take a closer look at that at some point. There's some huge developments coming in. They generate traffic, but under the way that you collect, it doesn't seem like we're getting enough out of that program. And if we're going to be asking the public for additional money for local roads, I think we need to touch base with this as well. If we're going to change something, maybe, but I'd like to take a closer look at how that actually is figured.
You want to look at the formula,
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah.
We can take a look. I think in large part when it looks like a low number, in large part because these developments tend to trickle in over time. So the way these typically work is that they based on the amount of the way the development develops. So there could be phased developments. It could be the monies received upon issuance of a building permit or an occupancy permit. And at times those could be 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road from when we identify a need. So it's hard to say that one particular year is going to be one development's going to create a big dollar amount. So these could be spread out over multiple years. That could be part of the reason for this, why you perceive them as a lower number.
We don't have a regional road impact fee like Washoe does, right?
We do not have a regional road impact fee, no.
Well, and it's based on a price and it's over a 10-year period of time too, that we're gonna, so one example is the Appian signal, right? And so this one guy may open up his business, but there's 40 pads in that area. So when the one comes on, he pays his share. So like we did that with, what's the coffee place, right? So 60,000 or something was, my memory tells me, that we did for the coffee place, but then the next one comes on, then the next one. So it may take us the whole 10 years to get our share that belonged to them for the signal.
Correct. I think as developments phase in, they pay
Gotta see it
different
as the whole
amounts depending
picture.
on how they develop and how different phases are developed over a period of time.
It's always something we can look at.
I'll mention something later on, but
Anybody
put a
else
pin
have
in that.
anything on this? Did you have something else, Mr. Novak? No. Okay. Well, this one does not require any motions. So is there, again, it's a non-action item, but just, we should have been tougher on Brian. I just want to, we let him off the hook every meeting and then he has the audacity to leave us. And so I had to make him do stuff, but I know, that's the point. Okay. We're on, H is done, so we're on 6A, right? Transportation manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Martinovich, I wanted to note that on October 4th and October 9th, those are our two scheduled local funding workshops for looking at local road funding mechanisms. The meetings will be identical. So one October 4th will be here in this boardroom. One on October 9th will be at Sealig Elementary School. You're welcome to attend one or both, but as I said, they will be identical meetings, just wanting to cover as many people as we can. Look for those utility billing inserts this month. On Monday, we'll be kicking off the Jump Around Carson Rider Survey. This is our biannual survey we do of Jack ridership. There is a QR code that's been established, and there'll be flyers put on the buses, items put on the website, and other in-person survey correspondence to just kind of get a feel of how we're doing at Jump Around Carson. So look for that if you're riding the bus. I want to also note, related to Jump Around Carson, that on October 7th, we'll be offering free rides for folks in partnership with the Elks Lodge and their Stand Down event for veterans here in Carson City at the Community Center. So we've coordinated with them. They've got a lot of veterans in need, and we're going to help them out by getting people here by offering free rides on Jump Around Carson and Jack Assist on that particular day. So there'll be more notices on that as we get a little bit closer. I want to note also that October 4th is Walk to School Day. Scott Bohemia will be leading some efforts around different schools in Carson City, so look for him and encourage those who can walk to school on October 4th. It's a good way to get out there, and hopefully we have good weather. We've had great weather this month, so fingers crossed as Greg's doing there. I also want to note that related to that last item, for next meeting, we are likely going to have a developer agreement related to the Appian traffic signal project. So there'll be some coordination and an agreement for discussion at that board meeting, assuming everything lines up and comes together. So look forward to that item next month. That's what I have for my report. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll go to 6B, the street operations report. Anyone has that?
Street operations report. There's 2 months here. We didn't have one last month, so we have June and July across the fiscal year. So you'll note that the fiscal year to date column has reset. On the June one, I will note that a lot of sidewalk and flat work occurred, and a lot of that had to do with repairs related to some heat. And I think that's again occurring in July, where we had a lot of heat there, and a lot of the sidewalk buckled. And so we were replacing a lot of sidewalk in variety of places all over Carson City, as well as cleaning up and repairing things following the winter. I also wanted to note one other item in the July meeting under the striping, signs and markings section. As usual, we went out and we redid a lot of the crosswalks and stop bars in many of our school zones. So you'll see a high number there for stop bars and crosswalks painted. 37 and 44 is listed on that table. So just wanted to note those. Our crews are out, making sure our paint's as fresh as it can be in those school zone areas. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer questions on the street operations report.
So on street operations, I can't remember where I saw the posting, but it flashed me and I saw it. So it had report if you have a pothole and we'll come out and fix it. It was on something or other. And so I'm kind of interested in what you define as a pothole. Just because I've now got a bunch of public calling me, well, the pothole. I'm like, well, that's not a pothole. That's a whole road that needs to be fixed. So what do you mean by a pothole or something? Is that, let's say I got a crack that's about this wide all the way across the road and, you know, they go every 20 feet down the street. That's not a pothole. That's a crack, right? What I'm asking though is your message of what's a pothole. Are you meaning just your tire just keeps hitting into this hole? On what do you mean by it?
I am not exactly sure what the pure definition of a pothole is. I can coordinate with our street operations manager and find out how they're interpreting a pothole and report back
I would
offline
love it, just because I'm
that's
getting the
beneficial to the
calls
board.
and I'm like, some of them I can do all by myself pretty easily. That's not
Perhaps-
going to count.
Perhaps Darren knows.
That one's not it. So what are you asking though for them to report that you're indicating you'll come and repair it?
Very good. Darren Schultz for the record. Really a good rule of thumb would be something that if you drive over with your car, it can cause damage to the suspension, the tire of your car. Or if it's in a crosswalk where you're walking and you could step in it, fall, trip, that sort of thing, that's the level that we're going to. But it's not an exact science.
Okay.
And what you saw was a social media post
I told you I saw
that
it.
we put
I
out.
did see it.
And it's kind of part of a transportation month or street month as it relates to, you know, up and coming, trying to get the public interested in what we're doing for street funding. But that's what the post was. And we drive around city vehicles, and anytime we see a pothole, we will, hey, put that on our list. What we're asking the public to do is we don't cover every street all the time, and they crop up faster than we can see them. So if you do see something, but yeah, the category is basically, you know, something that would damage your car or damage you if you're walking, that level of things. And we can't get down to the cracks or the, you know, little chunk of that falls out. We wouldn't get to that, but.
And, well, no, but they're looking at half the road is washed away. And I'm like, no, that's not a pothole.
That's right.
That's half the road is missing. It's
And when
like-
they report that to us, that would be our response.
It goes
as
on a
well
different
as-
list.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And where are they making the report?
Carson Connect is where we directed them to. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that. I just thought I'd acknowledge that I did see the post too. I was like, oh, that just flashed me. I saw one of ours. It was good. Anybody else have anything? Questions? Just want to say I can see them out there. The crew's working hard though, and we probably got hit pretty awful this year cycle on that. Miss Maloney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question. I didn't know if I should make it now or at the board comments, but I guess I'll make it now since I'm not sure if it falls under streets or RTC. I've noticed several months back there's like a piece of missing asphalt in front of the transit center on Plaza. And I don't know what it's from, but it seems like it's still there. And I assume it's on the list for this summer. But there's just a lot of disabled people crossing Plaza, and I just want to make sure that it's on the list to be paved, I guess, before the snow falls, or if you know anything about it, I was just curious.
Carson Connect.
I will follow up with our, I'll follow up with our street operations manager to make sure that, I agree that that's been there a little bit. So I'll coordinate with him to see when that's scheduled to be paved.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we just don't want it prematurely damaging the buses, like if it was weird in the snow or anything, so, thank you.
Perfect. I think it's important for us to occasionally remind the public too that, because you can take a picture of the problem and actually tag it into the Carson Connect so they know exactly where you're talking about and things like that. So it's really a good feature for the community to utilize to help notify us of issues. And they respond, so it's a really good item. Okay, well, there are some people, I have to harass them a little bit, right? Yeah, just keep on going. You guys all help me here. So we're now on agenda item 6C, which are you gonna take us through it, Brian?
Yes.
Slowly. No, let's see. How long can we drag them out? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian Byrne, Transportation Engineer. I'll go over the project status report here, and we will start off with the Edmond Sports Complex multi-use path. So this project is under construction. I believe they started out grading and starting to get things ready and put into place. That is expected to be completed in the spring of 2024. We have our Roop Street rehab project. There's no activities on that until a later date. We have our Colorado Street pavement project. The water utilities and new sidewalks are installed for the project. The roadway polarization is underway and will continue through September. The federal project costs have been updated to reflect the pending LPA amendment earlier tonight. So yeah, I actually drove out there today and things are paving, so things are moving along. Our Fifth Street reconstruction project, the project received the NTP from NDOT on August 30th. The project is planned to be advertised for construction in late 2023, and the project costs have been updated to reflect the LPA amendment. Next, we have our East William Complete Street project. The consultant has submitted 90% design plans for review. The NEPA document has been submitted for approval by FHWA and NDOT. And the project's right-of-way phase will start in September pending approval of the NEPA document. Our DMV multi-use path project, the 100% design plans are scheduled to be submitted to NDOT this month for final review, and the efforts have been initiated for environmental permitting. The final design for this project is still expected to be completed this fall of 2023, with construction to begin next spring or summer. Our Appian Way traffic signal and intersection improvement project, we are reviewing 100% design plans and actively seeking to establish a formal agreement to facilitate the completion and design of the fourth leg. And coordination with the Department of Housing and Urban Development is also beginning for NEPA. Our Desatoya ADA improvement project, that project is completed and we are working on the project closeout. Our District 5 Medical Parkway Preservation Project. The construction is underway with the wide crack repairs and pavement patching. The slurry is scheduled for early September with striping to follow. Our District 5 Mountain Street Preservation Project. This project is completed and we are working on the project closeout. And our Winnie Lane District 5 Reconstruction Project. The consultant has submitted 90% plans for review. The final design is expected at the end of September, with construction anticipated in early 2024. Our West Carson Vulnerable User Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project. The project is working towards 30% design plans, and those are expected to be wrapped up sometime this fall of this year. Next is our new district pavement improvement project, the ARPA funds. This is just outlining the District 2, 3, and 4 aspect of it, with District 5 being under construction and District 1 being completed in-house. And then we have the last three projects here of our District 1, Airport Road, College Parkway, and North Lampa Lane. All those projects are just being created. And those will begin this month. So there'll kind of be more to report on that in the next status report. So with that, any questions?
Does anybody have any questions on any of the project? I really love this report. It's my favorite. It really truly is, because it reminds you of all that we're actually doing. When I get people that say, why isn't the city fixing the roads I'm like, what? What are you all talking about? You're working hard, and there's a lot of projects and balls in the air at the same time, but maybe not the street that you're looking for to show up on the list, but we are working hard to fix what we can, considering. So I really like this report. But anybody else has anything else? Well, I guess we will have to say good luck.
Well,
We
thank you.
think you're
It's been a
gonna
pleasure.
regret your decision, because we're just the best. Oh, thought I'd mention that, but good luck.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it. Yes,
Yeah.
me too.
We really are.
Thanks.
Okay. Do we have anything else? Anybody? Anybody? We're good. Then we'll take final public comment on agenda item 7. Don't have anything there. No objections. Then we are adjourned. Great meeting, everyone, and good work.